grade students from Congdon Elementary. Miss Alison here, continuing our after-school program, exploring my city through art. I am so very happy that I can do this. You can all see me, hello. Unfortunately, I can't see you, but I'm imagining every one of your smiling, happy faces, ready to do artwork and be creative. So let's begin. So today we are going to do silhouette sunset paintings. Silhouette sunset paintings. And as always, before we start, we chat a little bit, have a little discussion, and I always ask you a bunch of questions. So I'm going to ask you the first question. What is a silhouette? Think about it. What is a silhouette? And usually when I ask these questions, hands go up in the air, everybody's answering. So I'm just imagining all of you answering the question, okay? So a silhouette is a dark shape or an outline against a light background, okay? So it's something dark, it's a shape or an outline against a light background. And we are doing sunsets. If you have ever seen a sunset before, I'm sure all of you have seen many beautiful sunsets. There are many beautiful sunsets in this area and in New Bedford. And so we see the fiery colors of the sky. We see a lot of reds, oranges, yellows, sometimes you see a little blues, pinks, purples. We see beautiful colors. And then the objects in front of it are dark. That's what makes a silhouette. So even if it's not, so it'll be dark or black. You might see a tree in front of it, it's dark against the light sky, okay? So if I was to ask you what is a sunset, what would you say, right? You know all the beautiful colors. But a sunset is when the sun is actually going down, it's setting, right? It's going down, it's disappearing, and the night is coming forth. So gradually, it gets darker and darker, gradually the light moves, but these beautiful colors happen in between. And what happens is that all the things we see during the daytime appear to be darker, get darker and darker because nighttime is coming. But we see the brilliant sky and we see all the objects dark. So that's what we're going to do. So we are going to do a sunset sky, and that's our background, and then we are going to put objects on top of it to create a composition and a scene, okay? So what we're going to do, this exercise is part 1 and part 2. We're doing part 1 today, which is actually creating the sunset in the background. I'm going to show you an example of a finished product. Of course, I always say don't let that influence that. This is just to inspire you and to see what you can do, okay? But there's so many different things you can do, and in part 2 I can give you other references and ideas for different elements that we piece together. When I say elements, it's like this lighthouse here is an element, right? The landmass and the tree and the plants are elements. And the sun, the birds, okay? And how we put it together. We talk about composition a lot in a lot of our pieces, so we know how to do composition. But we're gonna break down this in easy steps. So the first thing we're gonna do is our background. If you notice, look at the background, okay? We're gonna do the whole page, the whole, whatever we're using. I'm gonna show you what we're gonna be using. And we do the entire thing with this background, all right? And then we put on top. So we usually talk about that background, middle ground, and foreground. So today we're dealing with the background. We're dealing with color and painting. Now, when we paint the background, you're gonna learn about gradation, right? Have you ever graded a color before? So gradation is when you do a smooth transition between one color to the next. So I want to see some really beautiful, smooth transitions that you're going to see and you're going to make the background of. Okay, so let's begin. All right, so what you need paint. Always, we do a lot of color theory in our classes, and we've done this before when we were painting, and I only give you primary colors. At first, many of you is like, oh, well, where are the oranges and the greens and the browns and purples, etc.? And I'm like, we can make it. And, you know, already I've realized that you all know how to mix color beautifully. So today, so we have 3 primary colors. Remember, primary colors are colors that are original colors. No color in the world can mix to create red or yellow or blue. But these colors can mix together to make secondary colors, to make other colors, okay? So today we want to use these, red, yellow, and white, right? Red and yellow are primary colors, and when they mix together, they create a secondary color. You remember what that color is? Yes, orange. And if you by any chance forget, guess what? I always say we're scientists. You forget, you put it into your palette and you mix it and you find out what it is. And you know, when you do that, it's you will tend to remember it next time. So we have that. We have our palette, right? We use these a lot in our classroom. Disposable, just like styrofoam. But you can use whatever you have at home. This probably you can find around in your house. Paper towels that you could dab your paint brushes in. Some water, okay? I have my clean water here. In class, do you remember what we do? We usually have a bucket of clean water. I have my bucket right down here and an empty bucket. So we empty when the water gets dirty, we empty it out and we dip it in. So you can do that at home as well, so you don't have to keep getting up and going to the sink and changing it and all of that and messing up the sink. Don't dirty the sinks at home, okay? So we have that, we have all that, and we have our brushes. I always like, you know, in the classroom, I try to tell you to have a large brush, a medium brush, and a small brush. And sometimes we even do like detailed brushes, thin, very thin brushes to get edges. We don't need that today. Today, we need our large brush. As I always say, when you're doing a large area, you need a large brush, okay? And we're doing a large area. We're doing the background of our work. Now, we can do this on many different things. Canvases, okay? So you're gonna have some materials that you can work from. I'm not sure what you'll be getting, but you might be getting a canvas or a canvas board. Now, you worked on canvases before. Remember when we did the Impressionist paintings? And canvas board. So canvas board is hard. It's canvas that is stretched over a board, okay? And I have some paper. I'm going to do some examples, right? So you can do this exercise. So even if after this and you did your final one, you want to try some other ones and explore some colors of the sky, you can get some paper and do this as well, because I've done many different samples. You know, I always tell you, do more than one, try many different ones, and then you see what you like, right? So let's begin. So we have all these things that we're going to try out. Okay. Now, we are doing the background. I'm going to start with my paper, and I want you to decide whether you have a canvas board, or paper. The first thing you're going to decide how you are going to hold your paper. The orientation, we say that, the orientation of paper. How are you going to hold it? Horizontal, right? We talked about this in class. Horizontal, when you hold it horizontal, otherwise known as landscape, okay? Even if you're not doing a landscape, it's landscape, the way you hold the paper. This way is vertical, and another way of calling it in art is portrait. So even if you're not doing a portrait of a person, it's still called portrait, the way you hold it, okay? So you can decide if you want your composition to be like this, but then you paint left to right, like this, up and down, okay? Or you're gonna hold it like this, and then you're gonna paint it across. I always suggest, if we're doing landscapes, and this exercise here, we're going to do a landscape, okay? Sunset, silhouette, landscapes. And so we're going to hold it this way. However, please don't hold me to that. You can definitely hold it like this and still do a landscape. Maybe depending on the object that you're going to draw, you might draw one large object that's tall, like a tree, or a boat with sails, and it could be large and tall. So you can get the same effect, okay? So it's really up to you, but you need to decide how you're going to hold it, because you don't want to hold it like this, paint left and right, and then you hold it this way, and the brush strokes are going different ways, okay? And you're going to see when I start. Okay, so I'm going to hold mine this way, and we're going to start. And so let's put out our paint. Can you see here? Good, I'm gonna put this here. Now, in class, I always tell you, let's put the paint in the corners. So I'm gonna put out a nice area here. See, not too much. I know you guys would squeeze too heavy, so just a little bit. You could always put more if you need more, all right? So you don't want to waste paint. I'm doing a few examples, so I'll put a little extra. I usually like to put primary colors all around and maybe the white in the middle. Because we can use white as well, because to make even the colors lighter, I'll show you how. But these are the main two colors, red and yellow, red and yellow. And red and yellow mixed to create orange. So we're going to mix our orange, okay? So we want to mix our orange so we'll have our orange ready to go. So when we're creating those grades, we don't have to then now start to mix the color and the paint dries. Remember, we're using acrylic paint and it dries pretty fast, but we want to be able to grade it, and the paint has to be wet enough so that it can grade. Okay, good. So we're going to mix color. Now, I've shown you how to mix color before. Do you remember? We always want to scoop out the color from these areas. We don't want to just take a color and mix it. We want to try and leave these colors as clean as possible. You know, sometimes you will get little parts of another color in it. That's okay. But when we're mixing a color, we want to scoop it out, put it on another area, and mix it. So, as I taught you before, you always want to scoop out the lighter color. So I'm going to make orange. I scoop out my yellow first, and I put it in a separate area. Let's make enough of it. Sometimes in class, we don't make enough. We have to keep going back mixing. So we're going to make enough of that. So I put a good amount of that in there. You can wash out our brush. Now, when we start to grade, we don't need to wash out the brush as much because we want some of the other color grading into the other, right? So you don't have to. I washed out so I can go into the red. And I'm going to take a little bit of the red. We put the darker color after so that you don't overpower it. If you start off with the red, what happens? You might have to put too much of the yellow, and then you waste the yellow for it to get darker, for it to get lighter. So it's easier the lighter color, and then you put the darker color. You just put a little bit of the darker color first, and then add as you see fit. Okay, see in here? All right. Look at that lovely orange. But I wanted it a little darker. I want that color a little darker. My paper towel, always handy to dab off the excess water. You don't want excess water because you don't want it all washy. You want to use the paint as it is. Sometimes, if it's a little dry, you can add a little bit of water, okay? But you don't want your paintbrush soaking wet. So I want to put more red because I want my orange to be a nice medium, rich orange. This is a little light. It's lovely, but I still want it. Do you like this color? All right, you mix your orange. I wish I could see your oranges. All right. Good. And I used a medium brush to mix. Sometimes the big, thick brushes, you know, it takes up too much of the paint and it's too clumsy. So a medium brush to mix. Try not to waste the paint. And then I'm just gonna wash it out. I'm not gonna paint with it. I wanna paint with my big brush because I have a big area. All right, now, are we ready? So what we're gonna do, I am going to start, and I'm gonna show you different ways of doing it. There are many different ways, and no right and wrong, because you're gonna get some beautiful, beautiful effects. So the first way we're gonna do, I'm gonna start off with red, I'm gonna start off with the dark color, and then transition light into the yellow, okay? So red, orange, yellow. And my red is dark and bright. I don't want to take up my whole page with it or half of the page or even quarter. I just want a little bit, but remember you're grading one area into the other. So put your palette wherever, if you're left-handed, right-handed, put it in a place where you feel comfortable, right? Put your water in a place where you feel comfortable. So set up your area so that you know where everything is and you feel comfortable with it. Paintbrushes are here. This is my paintbrush. Okay, so it's nice and dry. I'm gonna wet the paintbrush first. Now, when I'm washing off and wetting the paintbrush, my paint is yellow or orange, and that's still okay, okay? It's when we start and our paint's getting way too murky, we want to paint water, we want to empty it out and get fresh water. Because you remember what I say in class all the time. Dirty water means dirty colors, all right. So some of you need to practice this. So when you wash out your paintbrush, you do this and you go straight into the paper towel. But I want you to knock it off here and just drag it. When you drag it, the excess water, and you can turn it, okay? See it again? Mix, mix, mix. Right here. Drag it on the side. Drag it on the side. It gets rid of the excess water. And then you could actually dab it. I'm not just gonna dab it because I think it's enough and it will make it go a little smoother. Here's my red. Make sure the paint brush is filled with the red. Seeing that? Another thing I don't want you to scoop and then put on your page. You just load the brush. See what I'm doing? Left and right. Right? If I have a large, I could just do that if I think I have too much. I have my red. Okay? All right. So pay close attention to what I'm doing. I'm going to turn my camera so you can see it a little closer. Let's begin. So here we go. We're going to start with our red. Oops, I got a little drop here. All right, that's okay. All right, so here we go. Seeing that? Long brush strokes. Back and forth, long brush strokes. Now this is a small page. This is enough red for me. If I keep going, I am afraid it'll be too red, right? So look at that. Nice. While it's still wet, we don't want to go until it's dry. While it's still wet, I want to go into my orange. Okay? I'm not washing out my brush. I just dipped to get a little water. I'm not washing out my brush. I want some orange. Here we go. Here we go. Look at this. Orange, right? Right under. But remember we talked about grading. How do we grade a color? We go back up. So we're going to overlap that orange into the red. As it goes, they're both wet. The red goes into the orange goes into the red. Look at that lovely transition. Are you seeing? From the red transitioning into the orange. Good. Let's get some more orange. And every time you do one, you want to go a little further back, not the whole thing. So please don't lose each one. You're just going over that line so that you're not seeing any line. You don't want to see a line of red, a line of orange, etc. You want to see a nice gradation. I think it's time to start adding some yellow. Well, guess what happens? I did not wash out my brush. And that's okay, because when I do that, guess what happens? It's going to mix. Look at this. Because I have orange and red in here. I just keep going back and forth. But guess what? I overlap. So you are not seeing a line. Subtle, very subtle. And then some of the red is coming through. You seeing this? Look at that. We are getting some beautiful colors, gradation of color. I'm going to go full on with my yellow. Because I have the oranges there, they're picking up. If you think too much red is coming out and you want more of the yellow, you can wash it out. Up to you. Certain parts it's nice not to. And other times I want to wash it off because I want to get a little more of a pure yellow at the bottom. And then I want to get even lighter. So the lighter, I'll just add a little white to my yellow. Add a little white to my yellow. And I come in here. Look at that. Oh, that is just beautiful. Right? I wet it a bit and allow it to grade. Right? And remember, with a sunset, you might see little streaks or whatever. Look at that. So for this example, I started with my darker color at the top, which was the red. I then went into my orange and I overlapped it a little bit. Right? I didn't overlap the whole thing, just the top. And so I got red oranges. Then I went in with some pure orange. Right? So then I got an orange, then I went in with some yellows, overlap that. So you have a nice gradation. Now, when you do it this way, you don't have to decide what color you're gonna have at the top or the bottom yet. Because when we start to do our silhouettes, right, you can decide. So when you're ready to do it, you can look at it and see, do I want the reds at the top? Or maybe I want it like this. Okay? So this is the exercise that I showed you here. I had the reds at the bottom and the yellow at the top. And it looks just as good the other way around as well. Okay? It could be the reds at the top and the yellows at the bottom. See that? Good. I'm going to do another quick exercise with paper. And I'm going to hold it this way in case you would like to do one holding it in portrait way. Straight up and down. So straight up and down. And we're going to go across. Wash out my brush. All right, we're going to start with yellow this time and go down. We started red first. We're going to start with yellow. I want to do like a whitish yellow. I want it bright and light. Sometimes, you know, when you look at the sun, right around the sun looks white. The sun itself looks white. It's so bright. You're not supposed to look at it, but in pictures you can see it feels like that. So I have my yellow. Seeing that? Okay. Let's go. You remember, look at my brush strokes. Long, bold, okay? Remember, I don't want this. This is a different type of painting. You remember what type of painting that is? Impressionist painting, dots and dabs. This one, we are doing long brush strokes. That's why we need nice big brushes. Big brush means for big areas, all right? Look, I added a little white at the top so it's really light. And then we're gonna come in with some other colors. What we're gonna come in with? With our orange, okay? Now, sometimes you could always mix. Look at how I just put aside a little bit of the orange, put some yellow with it, and let's go. Now remember, I am not creating a line. Look at that. It looks like a line. I want to go into the orange. Sometimes I dab a little bit of water so that it could help me to mix. Maybe you dab a little bit of yellow. Helps. Okay? Look at that transition. This is what I want. Gradation. This is one of our major lessons in this class today. Gradation. Grading a color from light to dark or dark to light. Seamlessly, almost. You can also go back in with little strips because that's what a sunset looks like. But at first, I want you to go with that gradation. Let's go with some more orange. You can decide what your sunset background is going to be. Is it going to be more yellows and oranges and not as many reds? Maybe. It's really up to you. There's so many things. I'm going to add in some red, but I'm mixing it with some orange because I don't want it that strong. Look at that. Now if I do that, that's creating a line. I don't want a line, so wet my brush a little bit, not soak my brush. I want you to see what I'm doing. Dot, okay? I'm going to have to change this water soon after this one, right? And I'm going, look at this. Very important to see. I put my brush between the line of the reddish orange and this orange here. Right between. So I am overlapping, overlapping, overlapping. I go up a bit, release the pressure, and I created a grade. See? Good. Continue. This page had a little curve, so I just wanted to fill it in. I'm going to add a little more pure red right at the bottom. Pure red. And go back up, overlap. Okay? So please remember, if you are seeing a hard line, try and go back in and try and grade it. Okay. Look at this. Isn't that lovely? So the other one we had red at the top and went down to yellows. This one we have yellow at the top. But of course, when it dries, we can turn it this way if this is how we would like to do ours, okay? But I wanted to show you that you can do vertical, and you can do vertical, which is a portrait style, or horizontal, okay? So you don't want to do horizontal and then you turn it this way to do your silhouette, right? Because it's going this way. We wanted to go across. We wanted to go across. So here are your two, either this way or this way. Oopsie. Got it? Look at that. Beautiful. Okay. Put that aside. I'm going to show you some other things. Okay. Different options of things that you can do. Okay. Here's another one. I'm going to use a canvas for this one. So you saw me do it on paper. You have lots of choices. You can do it on paper, you can do it on canvas, or you can do it on canvas board, okay? All right, for this one, look at what I'm gonna do. Well, first of all, my water is dirty. You know, it has a lot of orange. I wanna go back in with pure yellow to this one, so I don't want to dip it into that because it's dark. So I'm emptying it out into my dirty bin, and I'm dipping clean water. So I got some clean water in here. Okay, I'm gonna wash up my brush. Dry it off. Okay, I need to refill my paints. This is my palette. This is what my palette looks like now. I just go back in this area, put my yellow. I have enough white, maybe a little more red. And we're gonna make some more orange. We need more orange. So I'm going in with my medium brush to make. Again, scooping out. Scooping out and scoop. I'm not gonna, I'm using all these colors. They're not opposite, so I can easily just mix them. You might see a little yellow on that side. That's okay. Once you're not gonna overpower and, totally change that main color that you have there. Okay, I have a nice dark orange. You can choose whatever oranges you want. You can make more than one orange. You can have a dark orange, you can have a light orange, okay? I think I'm gonna make a light orange. Why not? Because sometimes you might want a lighter sunset, okay? So light orange, a lot of yellow, a little bit of red. Look at this. Beautiful. I'm gonna put just a little bit more, just on the edge. Because we are all using these colors, we don't have blue in here, it's not gonna make all mud. So that's why sometimes I still, just go on the edge and take a little bit of it. I have a lighter orange here. Try and mix your colors as best as you can so you don't have streaks. Good, are we ready? So look at this one. This is a cool one. You know how I started before with red? then oranges, yellows. I did the other one with the yellows first, then orange, then red. I am going in with just pure yellow. And I've seen this before. This is great. This is a nice exercise. Just in the middle, just in the middle. So you are going to long brush strokes. Look at what I'm doing. Boom, boom, long brush strokes. Go back in. And I'm going to take up most of my canvas because I want it to grade anyway. This is a nice one for landscapes. You have a horizon line, you know, like this one has a horizon line here, right? And usually, like when the sun sets, that whole area is fiery. So that's what I'm going for that one. This one, I wanted the yellow at the top. That's fine. But now I'm gonna have the yellow in the middle. So check this out. Boom, yellow in the middle, right? And we're gonna go out on each side. So from the yellow here, orange to red, yellow down here, orange to red. Let's do that. In fact, I kind of want to put a little bit of this light or yellow right here. I put a little white in the middle. Make it really light yellow. And then you have the darker yellows. You seeing that? Great. I'm not going to wash my brush. I'm just going to go right into my light orange. Overlap a bit and come back up. Touch a little bit of the red. I don't want it too red, so maybe I'll use the darker orange at the top. See? See how I created a line? Let's smooth that out and create a grade. Oh, that's lovely. See what I'm doing? That. Okay. Remember, it could be a little uneven, so if you want to make a little more of the oranges on one side and then lighter on the other, look at that. Right? And then yellows. Don't lose that yellow. We put the yellow in the middle for a reason. So don't go covering up the whole thing with orange. Let's go with the light orange and we come below. Now, do you see what happens? Like when the paint, I have less paint on my brush, like I've used too much and it's gone, it starts to do this. This is called dry brush. So it's dry, it's not wet, and you're not getting a smooth. Dry brush is nice for different techniques, but for this one we want it nice and smooth to make the gradation. So let's put some water in there. I go back into the orange, and then I can smooth it out because I have the water in. Just add a little more water, not too much. I think I added too much, so I just, knocked it off there. That's okay. Maybe a little darker at the bottom. Seeing that? Create a grade. Now I have a line here. If I keep going, it's gonna take off my whole yellow. I don't want that. So a trick, let's wash it off. And then add some more yellow. And I go from the yellow here down over the orange. And I go back up, I go back down, I go back up, and look what happens. Ta-da! Without me taking away. So this is a nice one because when we do a composition, in the horizon line could be somewhere where the light, where this yellow is, and the sun sets right there. That would be the brightest part. Great. Put that aside. So you see how you learned all these different ones. Gradation from top to bottom, bottom to top. This one, start in the middle, light, and go out. Let me show you another cool one. Now this is a cool one. We're gonna start in the middle again. But guess what we're gonna do? A circle. Let's go with our yellow. Create a circle right in the middle. Not perfect. Just quickly create it with your paintbrush. Can you do that? It's not gonna be perfectly even, but look at how I press down and I just swing it around, okay? Look at that. I like to go large because guess why? We would grade the colors into that, okay? Look at this. I'm gonna go in with a little white, and white is gonna be right in my center. It's almost like where the sun would be. And you can have the sun right there if you want, or not. Okay? Look what I did. And I'm just going over it with the yellow and grading. So it looks like it's graded. Can you see that? It's graded from the yellow into the white. Then I'm going to go in with my orange. I'm not going to wash out my brush. Going right into this orange, light orange that I have. Just dip a little bit of water, put it in there so it can stretch. And it could go on smooth. And then I'm going to overlap a little bit here. Look at this. Look at that. I go in with my yellow just so that I can create this nice gradation. You see what? White to yellow to light orange. Isn't this fun? I know you guys are gonna have a lot of fun with this because I know you love painting. Two things you love to do in our class: painting and clay. Isn't that correct? All right. So I went in my darker orange and went right in there, and let's overlap it with the lighter orange and go right to the edge, right to the edge. Now, this is a problem that happens to all of us. Sometimes you don't make enough and it runs out. You can add a little water to it, or you just quickly make just a little more. Sometimes it's not usually the same, but you can still go with it because you're creating gradations. Look at that. Okay? Smooth it out. I like that. I like to go in a little darker in the corners. What if we do this? Saw what I did? Went in with the reds, a darker red, orange here, and then just come back out, come back out. Sometimes I put a lighter pressure, so I'm not pressing down as much. If I want the heavier, I go heavier here, and then lighter as it goes out, okay? Let's do that again. Here. And then lighter, lighter, lighter. Put in less pressure, so less paint goes there, right? Good. And it doesn't have to be as smooth. This is the sky. Lots of can happen. Look at that. Right? That's interesting, you know, and some of them you may not understand what it's going to look like, but as soon as you do part 2, when we put the silhouette, the black objects on top, it's really just going to pop. It's going to pop and you're going to be like, whoa, this is incredible. Okay? I would like you to do these. So you'll have one, you'll do one main one, right? The background. And then we'll do part 2. So this is part 1 with the background. Let me just show you some of the examples I did, right? So we did this before with the red, right? Red, oranges, yellows. Not much yellow. Look at this one. Not much yellow at the bottom here. We can turn it this way or that way. Little yellow. But look at how in between we can have the streaks of the yellow coming in. So you can give a brush stroke. I'm showing a nice smooth gradation, but you can come in and give a brush stroke, but be careful not to go too crazy with it. That's why it's nice to practice. I would suggest if you get the canvas, let's practice on the paper first, like what I did, so that you can feel which ones you like the best. This was an example of the one I did here with the yellow in the middle. Seeing that? Yellow. Each one is going to look different. Wild brush strokes. Sometimes you see the actual brush stroke, and that's nice too, because that kind of gives the illusion of the sky. Because in sunset, the sun is setting gradually. It happens really quickly. You don't think it does. When you turn away, you look back, new colors. And there's strips and streaks and all these beautiful things. Look, another one. If you wanted more yellows and oranges, not as much reds, okay? Up to you, variations. This one is yellow, reds, oranges all throughout. But you have to be careful that you're not just going to go over and over and over, because then what you'll just get a flat orange. We want variations. So this looks almost like a brush, a messy brush stroke, but believe me, when we put the black elements on top, it will look beautiful. A beautiful setting sky, right? This is like the one we just did, okay? We can hold this vertical, portrait, or landscape, okay? Nice. I have one here. This is one I would like you to try after. I want you to just stick with the two primary colors that mix together to make orange. So red and yellow to make orange. So you have orange, red, yellow, and white. But you can also try other colors, okay? So I do want you to try other colors, but you must be careful. You must be careful. If you look at this one here, the blues at the top, the white, right? Sometimes you might have to wash out the brush or just keep it light. Went into some pinks, went into some oranges, right? And yellows. There are no heavy reds there, right? And sometimes you can have strips of blue in between, but you have to practice and be careful, because if you have these blue mixing in with your oranges, what's gonna happen? You're gonna get mud. So this is just like for an experiment and, you know, to explore yourself, because I love when you explore, but I definitely want you to do the ones I showed you first. Take it step by step. You don't want to jump in with too many colors, okay? Take it step by step. How was that? Did you like it? Because it's a lot of fun. Please do more than one. You get better and better as you do it. You just get better and better, all right? And you can decide. You don't have to decide now what's going to be at the top or the bottom, okay? Because, of course, you're not going straight in with the black. As always in our class, what do I tell you to do? Studies. We're doing studies. So part 2, we're going to start that. So this was part 1, right? When we did these. Oh, let me just show you this quick exercise here. This one, you know what I did? I did little splatters of paint. I know some of you love to do that. You can do it with a toothbrush, or you can just do it with your paintbrush. Look at that. But I would suggest to do it in the darker colors. You can see it. I would suggest to do it before we put our black elements on it, okay? So let me give a little quick example of that, because I know some of you like that. It kind of looks like stars or like a galaxy. I have a paintbrush, not a paintbrush, a toothbrush. See? If you have an old toothbrush, you can do that. So save an old toothbrush and you can do that. Dip it in water. Make sure it's wet. I'm just going to put it right there in my light yellow or the white. Right? But we want to make sure it has water in it. A little, not too much. So you're going to practice. And you're going to take your finger like this and flick. So let's try. Look at this. We don't want to go too crazy. Light. This is just an option. You don't always have to. Look at that. Ooh. You can also take a brush, a thin brush. I don't always like the brushes because then, you know, sometimes you might get too much of a big blob. So you want some water in there. Let's try another one and see. Okay, these are bigger and it almost like a shooting star. You see that? But it must have enough water in it. Not too much, but enough water in the brush to do that. Look at this. Ooh, I love it. Okay, but don't go crazy, please. Do not go crazy with it. The whole thing's filled up. It's just a nice little effect. And these, you see, I've given you so many ideas for your backgrounds. So this is just part 1 with background. That's it, okay? You get your colors, put it out, And remember, grade. Oh, one more tip, I forgot. If you're using canvas, you remember we always like to tell you, you have to treat the canvas, the size of the canvas, just as important as the front, okay? Because it's part of it. So I want you to choose a color that's in this and put it on the side. I did red, okay? You can do one layer first, and if it's a little, because like it was still wet and my fingers got there, so I can do it again. But while you're doing the background, I suggest to do that one time, because then you don't want to have to do it at the end. Sometimes we had to do it at the end if you forgot. So do red, or you can do orange, you can do yellow, you could even do black at the edge, because remember we're going to have black in that, okay? So these are sunset silhouette paintings, part 1, where we just do the background. So I hope you learned a lot today. I'm going to ask you questions in the next one, and we're going to do part 2 very soon. Okay, so you should have part 2 right there to do right after part 1. Okay, all right. It was nice being in class with you today. I hope you learned a lot and you can experiment. I would so love to see those. So have fun with these, and I will see you soon with part 2. Bye-bye.